How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about Tales from the Darkside. This is Season 2, Episode 16, and this one's entitled Printer's Devil. This is from February 2nd, 1986, and is directed by John Harrison. The episode stars Larry Manetti, Charles Kampf, and Kate Charleson. The teleplay was written by the director, John Harrison, based on a story by Ron Goulart. And overall, this is a pretty fun episode. You get this writer who's a good writer, but no one's really paying attention to him. And he's really broke, really low on money, and he goes to this agency that says they can help him out and get him actually paid for what he wants to do. So he goes there and finds out they're in league with the devil. They use magic to get books sold, and he says everyone in the publishing world is doing this. And of course, he gets a bit of success, but once you're in that world, it's hard to get out. But overall, a really good episode. Several things about it. It actually feels way longer than 22 minutes. So many Darkside episodes, you can tell that they have to cut things out for the runtime. But this one, for whatever reason, it goes through literally years of this guy's life. And I'm like, wow, how did they fit so much in only a 30-minute time block? That's pretty crazy. And it also has a Stephen King feel. There are a few Tales from the Darkside episodes that have that Stephen King feel, It's a story about a writer. There's strange characters. Really, the agent really could be a maniacal Stephen King character. There's humor, but it's also quite dark. And, Stephen King did officially write 2 of the Tales from the Darkside episodes. Well, he did a short story for one, he actually did the teleplay for another. That'd be Word Processor from the Gods, and then Sorry, Right Number, I believe. But a few of the episodes, because this is anthology horror and a lot of them are based on short stories, a few of them really do feel like King projects, even though they aren't, and this is definitely one of them. And amongst the good stuff, and I mentioned it just a second ago, the agent, he's a really fun, evil character. He's this really big guy, kind of like the Kingpin, if you guys are familiar with Marvel Comics. But he loves to eat. He says, the starving artist is a myth. You need food because you need brain power. So he's this big guy, he's always eating, but he just loves to be evil. And you always gotta love a villain that just loves what they do. And early on in the episode, he's stabbing a voodoo doll, and it's like, a handkerchief that he stole from this guy, and it's a little baby doll that actually squeaks, and he stabs it, and the guy, he's talking to him on the phone, and he screams, and he just goes, "Oh, why, you sound like you're in a lot of pain." And he does it where he's practically laughing and just stabbing the baby doll and just having a great time. I really do love this guy, You get him, you get your writer main character, again, Stephen King-esque, and he even has the secretary that is kind of a punk rock girl, and she keeps changing her outfit to a bunch of random things. And in fact, I think the baby doll from the voodoo thing is actually missing its arm, and then later on in the episode, she has its arm as a necklace. Weird stuff. It's pretty fun. But it also does go pretty dark. There are several things in this episode that you're like, wow, that's pretty messed up, but he's using magic to get ahead. It's supposed to be. And I guess I should give, kind of a trigger warning for this episode. This is about, animal sacrifice, and part of it, they don't ever show the animal sacrifice, but every now and then you see an animal that it's implied is going to get sacrificed, and you're like, oh, that animal's cute, oh, why do you have to do that? But it's supposed to be dark, it's supposed to be a bad thing, So yeah, just a trigger warning for the animal lovers, I guess. Just know that that's in here. But yeah, this episode is intentionally dark, and there's another couple things that are, and we'll get to those in a minute. But anyway, overall, a really well-made episode. The idea that, why you can't get ahead in life is because these big companies are cheating, selling your soul to the big company, working for the man, really for the devil, It's got good social commentary, a crazy maniacal villain, and overall just a really well-made episode, and I definitely would recommend it. This is probably going to be one of the highlights of the season. Anyway, let's, without further ado, talk a bit about the plot. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I do want to say my piece on a few plot points and make sure you guys have a basic understanding as to what the episode's about. Anyway, we open up with a typewriter, and your first hint that this episode is going to be pretty cool is it's actually kind of ahead of its time with this typewriter sequence. You see the guy banging away, and you get a bunch of pretty quick cuts between him and the typewriter and various things around the room. Really a cool edit for this opening scene. Not quite Requiem for a Dream, but still kind of fast cuts here. And on the radio, he hears this guy. It's an ad. Are you a writer and you want to be successful? Call us, we'll publish you, and you can actually make some money. Why should all these talentless people be successful when you're not? Call us, we'll help you. And I actually have seen, even to this day, ads on the radio kind of like this, and it's one of those things where I'm like, what's up with them? They're not just interested in giving you success. What's going on here? But I never really looked into it. But anyway, the guy, you get to see some of his problems. He did a gig a bit ago, and he's not getting paid for that. And from what I gather is actually a huge problem that independents have to deal with. Hey, I did this work for you. Why aren't you giving me my money? And then he met an editor at a gallery opening, and why he hit it off at the party. When he tries to call her later, no, we're too busy. We need you to actually have an agent if you want us to publish you. So yeah, he's a good writer, but he's not getting anywhere in his career, which, yeah, I think he's pretty relatable there. But eventually he decides to take the ad and go in. I mean, what else does he have to lose? Let's go and see what's up here. And he goes into the office, and, first thing you do is you see the punk rock secretary, so things are a little off, and I do like that throughout this episode, she does come in with a bunch of wacky costumes, a little bit like the secretary in, do you remember that Hammer House of Horror episode, Rude Awakening? That one, she was changing, entire personalities, but it's the same concept of coming in with a new, different outfit on, although she's still very much punk rock the whole time. But anyway, he talks to the guy, and again, the big guy, the big imposing figure, and you can tell he's the big evil businessman, but he tries to pitch his novel. He's writing this novel into the void, and he says, yeah, and he kind of tosses it aside. I need you to write me a Western. I have a feeling that what the world is going to want is going to be this Western, and his idea of business is going to be literally telling him what kind of story to write, this genre with this thing, do that. And boy, talk about Darkside being ahead of their time. I mean, all the time people were trying to predict markets, trying to predict what's popular, which is why, you get a popular movie and then you get 20 other movies trying to do that. But boy, I can't help but look at him and saying, I have a prediction that you need to write a Western, and thinking, wow, he really is the YouTube algorithm before the YouTube algorithm was a thing. So he gives this guy a test. He's like, I want to know if you're going to be a good candidate, and he has this little box full of a bunch of wires and stuff in a can on a string, or a wire rather, like a telephone wire, I think, hold this can. And he's holding this can. He's like, what am I doing? And he's like, ah, yes, your readings are quite well. We predict that you're going to, in the first year, make $150,000. And he goes, what, really? You can tell that from this machine? And then he's like, well, really 120,000. I do get 20%. And, you know, just kind of, you can tell he's really loving all this money. But he doesn't know, but he's, you know, like, that's a lot of money. That's really tempting. But to kind of prove that it's all real, he says, don't you have someone that owes you money? Again, he knows a lot about this guy somehow. And he calls up the guy who won't give him any money and says, hey, I have a client here who says you owe him some money. And that's where we get the voodoo baby doll scene. And he, you know, takes out, he has a drawer, like I think it's a painting slides up, and he has a drawer with all these important people's names, and that's where he gets the handkerchief for the voodoo doll. So, you know, having something for everybody, because you never know who you're gonna need. So yeah, he does have magic, he does have control, and the guy flips to his book and says, okay, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at who you are, where you were born, what your family's like, and according to this book, the magic you need to do to succeed is animal sacrifice. And he pulls out a knife. Again, another case of this good theatrical villain. You need to do animal sacrifice. I probably did that horribly. But he pulls out the knife, gives it to him, and says, the last guy who used this knife won a Pulitzer, you know? So he's on his track, and years pass, and he's doing good, you know? His books, although they're really more assignments than what he wants to do, are becoming successful. He's getting more money, and he's getting movie rights. His stuff are being turned into movies, and he's living a pretty good life. We do get another scene, again, one of the darker, more messed up elements, is the editor from earlier was a beautiful woman, and he actually wins her over, and he's like, wow, this beautiful woman loves me, and quite quickly he finds out that that may have been the publisher's doing with his magic. And the thing is, the two have a really good chemistry, and they are a pretty believable couple, and the thing is to know, you know, because you can see the surface, you can see how they're acting, like that's a good couple, but to know that it all happened because of manipulation really does ruin any good feelings in the air. And to know that something he has that's like one of the few valuable things in his life is all just a lie, that's messed up too. But anyway, he gets things that start to not work. You know, his wife really can't stand all the animals, and, you know, he really does miss his creative control, and everything is getting bigger and harder, and he wants out, and, like, years are passing, and you can tell he didn't just make this choice. He thinks, I'm successful, I'm rich enough, I can just get out now. But the thing is, back in the beginning, the secretary pretended to spill something on him and took his tie. He still has a connection to this world, and it's not going to be so easy to get out. And that's the classic story, runaway success, but doing it because of a cheat. And then can you really ever get out? Can you ever really escape this? And, you know, the ups and downs of this career. Pretty interesting stuff. And again, really a lot to do in only a half-hour time block, so that's pretty crazy. And I won't spoil it, but it does get to a good, dark ending that I always really love. So yeah, a really good, maniacal, crazy villain, a really good Stephen King feel. Again, it's not Stephen King, but it does feel like that. And yeah, just a really well-developed episode. A ton happens, and definitely one of the better Darkside episodes, I'd have to say. Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching, and to everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Tales from the Darkside playlist. I've covered all the past episodes. I did the Christmas episodes early, and I did a Season 1 overview and the Joe Hill comic. So if you want to see more Darkside, this playlist is getting pretty long, and if there's a past episode of this show you liked, there's probably a review for it up there if it came before this one. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Darkside playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.